Congratulations, Bill. Kinds of things to say. The other individual that we promoted, he's not able to come this evening. It was Andy Alderman. Like I said, I don't know how many of you all know Andy. He was a sergeant. He's been with the department 14 years. Prior to that, he was with Kansas City PD. He's been obviously an officer, a road sergeant. Just prior to his promotion, he was a sergeant in our detective bureau. Does a phenomenal job and certainly earned that bar that he wanted. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
The other one is Captain Steve Geyer. Steve's been here. Come on up, Steve. Steve's been with the department 33 years. You know, everybody that's coming up here has a lot of time here. He's got a lot of years of experience. Prior to that, he was at 2 other agencies. What's your total years of service? 38 years of service. Before that, he was in the Air Force. So, but Steve's been like I said, troll detective, tenacious detective. You did not want him on. You wanted him on your case if you were a victim, but if you were the suspect, you did not want him investigating you. Sergeant, road sergeant, and then he's been a watch commander for past 5 years, 9 years. God dang. But anyway, he major case, been on major case squad, a lot of years of experience here, going to do a tremendous job. And like I said, he's now in charge of the detective bureau. He's the one that took Scott Bailey's thing. Congratulations. Allowing us to do this. And like I said, I know you got a busy schedule. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
The Police Department has a really, really neat program called Shop with the Cop, and I'd like to ask Officer Gary Baldridge to come up and tell us a little bit about it this year.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'd like to mirror the chief's statements by thanking you for making time on a heavily attended agenda this evening. So thank you. Promise I'll be quick. This is one of my favorite nights to come up here and to, I don't like to say brag, but I like to close the circle. Every year we advertise that we're going to do Shop with the Cop. 2021 obviously posed its own issues, as did 2020, but with the great partnership with the school district, with Walmart, and with the department itself, and of course, Youth in Action and Keith Rawlings, we were able to make 2021 still happen. In short, we were able to provide a little bit of holiday cheer for 42 kids. Every child that was nominated and selected was through the Kirkwood School District. They are all Kirkwood residents and were nominated by their teachers, by the counselors, and members of the school district themselves. There was no child that was nominated that we were not able to provide for. Each child was given a gift card to Walmart for $125. They were partnered with an officer. They spent approximately an hour shopping with the officer. And as this perfectly presented, the slide, several of the officers' wives were in attendance to wrap the gifts if the kids wished. Doing the numbers, the 42 kids came from 29 Kirkwood families. When the families left, due to the abundance in our budget, we were able to give each family a $50 gift card to Aldi to hopefully also help their holidays. So with all that being said, I'd like to wish or give special thanks to Walmart for allowing us to do this. The slide with all the wrapping paper, everything was supplied by them. We asked for nothing. They simply just gave it to us and told us to help ourselves, and whatever we used, they just wrote off. It was their donation. The time, the cooperation was, can't match it. Budget-wise, fundraising, need to give special thanks to the Betty family of Kirkwood, the Fox family, Tom Endres of Endres Gas Station, the Aerobox Company, Carroll Bank, the Cordy Law Firm, and the Enterprise Bank and Trust of Kirkwood. Just to name a few of the donations, the checks, the cash, the Venmo that constantly came into my office throughout the last several months. So hopefully next year we have, well, I say this with a caveat that the school district only gave us 42 kids. That's a good thing. They said that they actually had families that turned down holiday assistance this year. So I have no doubt that next year, whatever they give us, we'll be able to provide for as we look forward to our 5th year. Thank you again for your time. I always like closing the story. If I may, I have one note that I didn't have my readers on so I could see it. Every officer that you see in the picture was on their own time. We had approximately 20 officers show up that morning, several of them who had worked midnights the night before.
Wow.
No compensation. This was on their own time, all volunteer. They were thrilled to be there. So thank you again.
Thank you, Gary. It's a great thing. Wonderful things that happen in this community. Just wonderful. Now we will go to public comments.
The public comments portion of the meeting is an opportunity for the city council to listen to comments from citizens. It is not a question and answer session, and the city council will not respond to comments or answer questions during this period. The mayor may refer any matter brought up to the city council to the chief administrative officer or city clerk if action is needed.
Thank you very much. And before we start citizen comments, Councilmember Gibbons asked me to announce that later on in the meeting, the Sugar Creek Ranch driveway easement issue, she will be recusing herself due to a conflict of interest. So just so you know that ahead of time. So as we go into public comments, I'd just like to ask everyone to keep their comments very brief, very respectful, and I will call you on that. We have a respectful city council, and Kirkwood citizens are always respectful to each other. We have received many emails. We've received all the information from the Planning and Zoning Commission and from the staff. So we have information. So there's no need to, if you want to speak, no need to repeat what others have said. So with that, we will go to public comments. Freddie?
There are several public comments, and I would like to apologize in advance if I mispronounce any of your names. And if I could ask you to speak directly into the mic so that it's captured for the people who are viewing at home. And the first person is David Anderson.
David Anderson, 521 Taylor Young Drive. Planning and Zoning Board. Excuse me. Planning and Zoning Board passed PZ 0922 at the meeting of December 15th, 2021. They did so under the assistance from Jonathan Raich that the scope of the matter was a driveway, not a community. This council however, has the latitude to consider this matter in the broader view of this city and its neighborhoods. The residents of Sugar Creek Ranch have expressed many reasons and concerns they have. That is, granting the variance will be detrimental to their historic district. Listen to them. The residents of Sugar Creek Ranch do not want this easement. Allowing this driveway easement will open a festering wound in the Sugar Creek Ranch Historical District that will spread throughout the city of Kirkwood. deny this driveway request for the good of the district and the city of Kirkwood.
Gregory Stars,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Greg Stars. My wife Jill and our 5 children have been Kirkwood residents for 34 years, with the last 24 at 1917 Westview Avenue. I'd like to shine a positive light and recommend the approval of Resolution 1-2022 and the private driveway easement. As mentioned, we have lived at 1917 Westview Avenue for the last 24 years. Some similarities between our history and Mimi's Garden. Our address is a half a mile due west of Mimi's Garden on the edge of Sugar Creek. We built our home on the southern tip of a south to north private shared driveway. We received a variance regarding that private shared driveway. Our private shared driveway has houses to the north, in or on the edge of Sugar Creek. These houses do not have access to Ballas and or West Adams across Sugar Creek. 24 years later, it has been a success. It's been positive. Mimi's Garden's variance request is ecologically sensitive, which is positive to Sugar Creek. Mimi's Garden's variance request involves a +1 residential impact and is positive to Kirkwood. Mimi's Garden's variance request is positive in that it replaces 1 negative existing structure with 2 positive new homes on 2 separate plots. I recommend the approval of Resolution 1-2022 with the private driveway easement. It will shine a positive light on Kirkwood's positive ecological and residential approach. Thank you, Council.
Craig Dull,
Hello, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. Thanks for letting me speak tonight. My name is Craig Dole. I live at 291 Horseshoe Drive. I really have one point to make to you all, and that is that City of Kirkwood, including the City Council, have the responsibility to review PZ 0922 under the Kirkwood City Code. No one's opinions or beliefs really matter in this instance. This is a legal and code review. The Planning and Zoning Commission also had the same responsibility, but failed to do so. I attended that meeting on December 15th, expecting a robust discussion of city code for easements and subdivision modifications and how this application is or is not allowable under that code. Instead, the meeting consisted merely of description of the properties involved and the requested easement, as well as the commissioners' personal reasons for their votes. And by personal, I mean based on their personal beliefs and relationships, having nothing to do with city code. One commissioner asked the applicant whether he and his wife planned to live at one of the addresses in question, addressing him on a first name basis, something that stands out as peculiar in what should be an official setting and raises obvious questions of conflicts of interest. The commissioner, seemingly satisfied with the applicant's response of yes, then voted in favor, as if he was doing a personal favor for a friend. One can interpolate from the question that the commissioner would have voted no had the applicant responded no, that he was not going to occupy the residence. However, this shouldn't matter at all, as that's not a review criteria in the code. Another commissioner, the chair, explained his vote was due to environmental concerns because the easement would have a lesser environmental impact than building a bridge. The chair asserted this without any supporting evidence, environmental study, or expert opinion. He also offered this explanation after hearing that the applicant had already begun clear cutting the property in question without a permit, which didn't seem to be a concern. While presumably well-intentioned, the environmental claim is dubious at best, also not a review criteria under the city code, and should not have been considered at all in making a conclusion. Instead of these irrelevant, fabricated review criteria, the Planning and Zoning Commission should have reviewed the criteria as laid out in city code. Per the city code, subdivision modifications are intended for those cases where strict application of a peculiar requirement will create a practical difficulty or extraordinary hardship. It is not intended that modifications be approved merely to remove inconveniences or financial burdens. As clear from the applicant's own documents and the presentation at that December 15th meeting, the sole purpose is to avoid the applicant's perceived difficulty and cost in building a bridge across the creek. Since it's just merely requesting modification to avoid a financial burden or inconvenience, it should be denied on this case alone. But the code goes on to actually lay out the review criteria that should be considered. I've called out a couple here that do not apply in this case. Part I under section 25-24C is whether special conditions or circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land or structure, and actually brings in steepness of a lot or other obstacles as examples. There are no special conditions inherent to 133 West Adams at all. It is similar to every single lot along West Adams. It has a steep grade. It has a natural creek. These are not unique or peculiar as the code states. Paragraph 3, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Allowing infill housing to be accessed through this closed historic district would forever alter the essential character of our neighborhood, Sugar Creek Ranch, which is a one-way in and one-way out subdivision. Additionally, the properties at and adjacent to 141 Horseshoe would suffer substantial detriment due to the shared driveway, which is obviously not a desirable property feature. Paragraph 4 was whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services such as water, sewer, trash pickup. There's an obvious adverse impact here to the delivery of emergency and other services. West Adams and Horseshoe Drive do not intersect. Properties at 1334 West Adams and 141 Horseshoe are located 1 mile for each other by road. You'd have to take Horseshoe Drive to Lark Avenue to Couch Avenue to West Adams to get there. 141 Horseshoe Drive is not visible from West Adams, and it's not clear from West Adams, should a fire or emergency vehicle arrive there, how to access that property through Horseshoe Drive, nor how to get to Horseshoe Drive from that location. This could obviously endanger life or property, and not to mention negatively impact the lives of neighbors with minor inconveniences as well as major annoyances. Paragraph 5 was whether the property owner's request can be obviated through some other method other than a variance. This is the most obvious, right? He can build the bridge like everyone else has along West Adams there. It's been proof of concept. There's several bridges along there. So this really is just a financial burden that we're trying to overcome here, which is not allowed under city code. We're a nation of laws, regulations, and city codes, and the only way this whole system can function is if we hold everyone to the same set of rules, and that includes the applicant in this case. Clearly, the application fails the criteria for review as written in the code itself. Therefore, I respectfully request that the council do what the P&Z Commission should have done and review this application under the actual code, and therefore vote no on this easement. Thank you.
Carrie Purdle.
I am Carrie Purdle. Thank you for your time tonight. There are more concerns about the requested easement for 141 Horseshoe Drive located in our beloved Sugar Creek Ranch Historic District in Kirkwood. The developer states that he only wants an easement to access his property to build his home on West Adams. There are multiple reasons why this may not make logical or geographic sense. One main concern is that his petition indicates he is only planning to construct one home there, and a possibility in the future that there could be more than one home built on his 2.37 acre Adams property, in addition to a new home built on the property of 141 Horseshoe. Because of Kirkwood's envisioned Kirkwood 2035 comprehensive plan in its preferred scenario encourages community unit plan development with up to 6 units per acre in the Sugar Creek Valley and Sugar Creek Ranch Historic District. He could build many more homes off this easement. The commission, at their hearing on December 15th, was not allowed to address this issue, despite questions from the commissioners. This threatens the integrity of our historic district and could change the character of our quiet, family-oriented neighborhood or the spectacular Sugar Creek Valley, which was described by a homeowner on the November 17th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting as a sacred place to live. Keep in mind, developers develop with not always the best results for their neighbors or their environment that they will affect.
Dory Pulaski.
I'm reading for Dory. Okay, sorry. I didn't realize that was going to come up so quickly. So this is in her handwriting, so wish me luck. I am Dory Pulaski. I have lived at 177 Horseshoe Drive for 51 years with my husband, Tom, and sons. Kirkwood has been a community with dedicated leadership, which I have respected from the 1950s when my dad became active in the development of Kirkwood. As far back as I can remember, Kirkwood wanted to be known as a bedroom community, prosperous, but as a family home setting enjoyed with its beauty and peacefulness and hometown feel, not the hustle and bustle of activity of Clayton. Our P&Z regulations were set with these codes in mind. They stuck to their strict regulations and subdivisions and street development, providing homes and yards for their high, middle, and low-income families. Because of Kirkwood's success achieved through the years, developers are coming in and now requesting all kinds of variances to promote their bridge, to promote their profit margins. Unfortunately, P&Z has given in to some of their demands. Today, when you drive through Kirkwood, you see some areas dominated by new construction of gray and white painted two-story pitched roof homes with wraparound porches squeezed into small lots. These are misfits to our surrounding areas. Mr. Meskel, West Jefferson Properties, an experienced builder, was aware of the $450,000, was aware of the cost to build the bridge and driveway across Sugar Creek to his proposed house at 1334 West Adams address. To follow through with the purchase of that property, I assume he felt that P&Z would go along with his request for code change, allowing for an easement on 141 Horseshoe Drive property to allow access to his 1334 West Adams property. P&Z has shown leniency through recent years, which I have felt has taken the personality of Kirkwood from its original plans of the forefathers, which provided for a charming, beautiful community. Sugar Creek Ranch residents feel this easement, additional traffic, and infringement of our subdivision and historic district for many reasons, one of which I feel necessary to single out, as proven by the on-site P&Z meeting on November 30th. The 90-degree turn in Horseshoe Drive at 141 Horseshoe presents a potential hazard and safety factor to residents during construction, as proven by the inability of a Kirkwood sanitation truck being unable to complete their turn and proceed down Horseshoe Drive during their on-site visit meeting on November 30th. Cars were parked both sides of the street by residents attending the meeting. Residents had to be located, returned to their cars, and driven away. This took approximately 3 to 4 minutes. I sincerely hope our Kirkwood Council will vote no to Mr. Meskel's request to change code. Sugar Creek Ranch is an entity to ourselves. This is a possibility of future development next to 1334 West Adams address, which would incur even more traffic using Sugar Creek Ranch access and physical danger to our residents. Thank you for your time, Dory Paholski. Sorry about that.
Pat Fuller.
Good evening. My name is Pat Fuller. I live in Wildwood, but I own a home in the Sugar Creek Ranch neighborhood, and my daughter is currently occupying it. First of all, I want to thank you all for your service and your commitment to the city of Kirkwood. I know that you deeply care about the community, as evidenced just by the time that you're putting in as on city council. As someone who has lived in Kirkwood for 30 plus years, I also care deeply about the Kirkwood community and especially the neighborhood of Sugar Creek Ranch. I am opposed to the request to construct a driveway on Horseshoe Avenue that would only provide access to a home on Adams. This would be the only home on Adams accessible in this manner. To me, this is a workaround formulated by a developer that's a convenient, relatively cheap way to access his Adams address. All other Adams residents have constructed bridges and driveways directly off Adams. I have no idea what building a bridge and a driveway costs, but I'm sure it's not cheap. And wouldn't this be nice if you grant him this less costly way to build his home? So when you cast your vote on this subject, please consider that Sugar Creek Ranch residents who currently live in a quiet, peaceful area number much more than a single family. This single family will benefit from a driveway that will very conveniently access their home, while the rest of Sugar Creek Ranch residents just have to deal with it. And remember that these people in Sugar Creek Ranch have made probably the most significant investment of their lives, their homes. No one can predict what the future consequences will be if this request is granted. So I am urging you to do what is the best thing for the majority of people and vote no on the proposal. Thank you very much.
Mark Mueller.
Hi, my name is Mark Mueller. I live at 275 Horseshoe in Sugar Creek Ranch. And we, the residents of Sugar Creek Ranch, the property owners, the taxpayers, and the voters, voiced our opposition regarding this easement to the P&Z board and are voicing our opposition to this easement in our neighborhood to you, our elected city council members. We do not want the several years long construction traffic. We do not want the streets and sewer system torn up. And we do not want the additional residential traffic that would be incurred from the additional homes that would be built on those 2 acres outside Sugar Creek Ranch and utilize that easement as access to those lots. It seemed the P&Z board had already made up their minds and weren't listening to the many Sugar Creek Ranch residents that spoke in opposition to this easement proposal at the planning and zoning meeting, and was apparent by the board's immediate move to vote to approve by a 6-2 vote. I trust the city council members will listen and consider what your Sugar Creek Ranch constituents are saying. If not, then you are not doing the job you were elected to do. This developer has applied for this easement through our neighborhood solely to save himself the money of building a bridge driveway to the West Adams property they plan to build on from West Adams. If this developer wants the prestige of living on West Adams and sell these premium home sites for sizable profits, then part of the cost of that venture is to build a bridge and driveway over the creek to access their home sites, like everyone that resides on West Adams has had to do. This easement would be an encroachment on Sugar Creek Ranch's boundaries and unwanted violation of our neighborhood's privacy and safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Adams.
I'm Karen Adams, and I live at 1459 Lark Avenue. And I am the oldest living resident of Sugar Creek Ranch. I don't know if I'm proud of that or not, but I have lived in Sugar Creek Ranch since December 1954, when my parents bought a house on Horseshoe Drive from the builder Burton Dinky. And pretty much the only thing that has changed in 67 years is the names of the homeowners. And in some cases, even that hasn't changed. My next door neighbor, Craig Dull, just addressed the issue of the inconvenience and financial burden. So I will just say that approval of this application will create an inconvenience and financial burden for the homeowners of our beautiful Sugar Creek Ranch Historic District. This is more than a developer asking for an easement off the very busy and public Kirkwood Road or Manchester Road or Geyer. This is an entire subdivision of 58 mid-century modern homes with 138 residents, and I counted every one of them in our directory. In a very private, quiet neighborhood historically recognized by the city of Kirkwood and the state of Missouri. This is our subdivision directory from last year. This is our subdivision directory from 20 years ago. And if I could have found them back to the 60s, because I have them, the front and the back are exactly the same. The middle is exactly the same. Every house is listed with the homeowner. I only mention this because it shows that nothing has changed in our subdivision in 67 years, including our directories, and we are very proud of that distinction. When the subdivision was offered sidewalks and streetlights by the city of Kirkwood maybe 20 years ago, we declined because that was not how Burton Dinky designed Sugar Creek Ranch. So now what happens next time someone wants to be granted an easement into our subdivision? By allowing this easement, you are setting a precedent for future developers and builders. Are we now to become an easy, cheaper cut through from West Adams? Our subdivision is an iconic landmark in Kirkwood. And to allow a developer to cut through our subdivision for his own greed is incomprehensible. The exploitation of residents by changing the character of our neighborhood is not serving the good of the community for which you were sworn to do in your oath of office. Please stand with us and vote no on this easement. Thank you for considering the future of not only Sugar Creek Ranch, but the negative effect this will have on our beautiful city of Kirkwood. Thank you.
Dan Sheeran.
Mayor, members of the council. I am Dan Sheeran, a resident of Sugar Creek Ranch. I share the views and concerns expressed by my neighbors and am vigorously opposed to the construction of an access road through 141 Horseshoe Drive. But I wish to take this time to tell you of my bewilderment at the irregularities that have attended the submission and processing of the application for an easement. Standard procedures seem not to have been followed. Important information seems not to have been collected, or if it was, there is no record of it. I hope that there is no similar disorder in the submission and processing of other applications to planning and zoning. For irregularities and missing records always incite the public's suspicion. Thank you.
Kathleen Herring.
Before I begin my remarks, I've had several text messages that the link for live stream is not working. If there's a techie person here, could you please look into that? All you can get is previous meetings. Good evening. My name is Kathleen Herring. I own 1388 Lark Avenue with my husband, Dan Sheeran. In January 2019, we found a mid-century modern home in a beautifully designed and well-kept neighborhood. It was filled with authentic mid-50s homes set on unique lots, Sugar Creek Ranch. The home was 3-bedroom, 1-bath, being sold as is, and it was a mess. Water had been leaking in from the roof in multiple places. Both the home and the yard had been neglected for what appeared to be several years. Our architect and contractor agreed it would have been less costly and more efficient to tear it down and build new. Instead, we chose to save it. Demo began in mid-March. Work continued for 8 months. We went over nearly every day to check on progress. Neighbors stopped by to meet us to see what we were doing. Everyone was friendly and so thankful that we were not tearing it down. We moved in October 30th, 2019. The house was completely gutted down to the exterior walls and the concrete slab. We added a master bedroom suite to the back of the house with 2 walk-in closets and an ADA master bath. The kitchen was expanded 9 feet to the rear with a patio and fenced-in area for the dogs. The square footage increased from 1665 to 2367. A visit to City Hall led to the discovery of permits dating to April 1954 when it was built. Frank Zweigert, more commonly known as Rex Davis of KMOX Radio, was the original owner at a cost of $10,000. Our home has been updated to today's standards as well as adapted for aging in place. This was done without compromising the MCM character of the original exterior. There's all new plumbing, electric, a 3-zone HVAC system, insulation, flooring, windows, board and batten siding, roof and landscaping. LED lighting was used inside and out. To date, our investment is $929,000. We love living in Sugar Creek Ranch. It is truly a special community. We supported the effort for the historic district. We hope that the City Council will vote against the proposed driveway easement to preserve our quiet and historic neighborhood. Thank you.
If you know of anyone having difficulty accessing the live stream, they can go to kirkwoodmo.org/livestream, and it can be viewed there. The next person is Laura Moore.
I am Laura Moore, and I live at 170 Horseshoe Drive, and I also own 253 Horseshoe Drive. I could speak to my opposition of the easement between 141 Horseshoe and 1334 Adams from the perspective of being a third-generation Kirkwoodian, or the daughter of an architect that not only grew up in Sugar Creek Ranch, but one that came back to raise her own family in Sugar Creek. However, I am expressing my opposition as a parent of a child with cerebral palsy. 141 Horseshoe is 3 doors east of my home. It is located on a tight corner with minimal frontage and visual obstructions. Driveways hug both sides of its frontage. It is set in a neighborhood with narrow streets, no sidewalks, and curbs that are 5 to 6 inches tall. We have a great deal of foot traffic, dog traffic, and child's play on a daily basis. This includes the disabled. 141 happens to be along the only flat area from our home, which lends itself to be more disability friendly. There are no driveways, pathways, or sidewalks for someone to escape street level on the south or west side, or as we would call it, the inside circle, between 153 and 120 Horseshoe Drive. And that encompasses the 141 corner. If one is disabled using a walker, wheelchair, stroller, or has difficulties with gross motor challenges, as my son does, they are unable to get to safety in a timely manner of oncoming vehicles, trucks, etc. The public street is the only place for them to move about in the case of my son and the elderly who are unsteady outside of smooth pavement. I strongly believe that granting this easement will increase construction traffic, residential, and permanently increase residential vehicle traffic, which will only exacerbate the deteriorating pavement and safe streets these people depend on. We have already seen an increase in traffic with dumpsters, utility vehicles, large trucks coming and going, and this jeopardizes their safety. Sugar Creek Ranch was not intended or architecturally designed to be a thoroughfare for someone to build a home on West Adams in Sugar Creek Valley. I would ask that construction on a West Adams property stay on West Adams where it belongs. Thank you.
Carol North.
Good evening. My name is Carol North, and I live at 1380 Lark Avenue in Sugar Creek Ranch. When my husband and I moved from Webster Groves 20 years ago, it was one of the best decisions we ever made. Though I have to tell you, our grown children took it very hard. It made sense. They went to Webster Groves High School. They were statesmen. They had held the Frisco Bell. But I'm pleased to tell you our children have come around over the years, and now when they visit, I can safely wear red. I care about children, my own children and grandchildren, of course, but I also care about other people's children. As artistic director of Metro Theater Company for over 3 decades, my professional career was devoted to artistic programs and creative learning opportunities for children. One of my great joys is watching children learn through play. I love seeing how they test limits, gradually learning how to balance risk with responsibility, daring with sound decision-making. Over my 20 years in Sugar Creek Ranch, it's delighted me to see the kids growing up. The toddler next door is now driving, and she's getting college catalogs in the mail. The girl down the street who sang her heart out in the swing in her backyard every afternoon after school just got married. And the little ones in baby carriers now take responsibility for walking the family dogs. Our house is situated at the top intersection of Lark Avenue and Horseshoe Drive. It's where the school buses stop twice a day to pick up and drop off neighborhood children. It's the island where kids in their PJs wrapped in blankets hang out with their friends. It's the tight turn that kids on bicycles learn to navigate smoothly without those first awkward wobbles. Our neighborhood is defined as an intact mid-century modern neighborhood. The architecture has earned us a really important distinction, but it's also defined by 2 streets that we share, Lark Avenue and Horseshoe Drive, 2 streets with one way in and one way out, 2 looping streets where children play and grow, take risks and learn responsibility, 2 looping streets where the essential character of Sugar Creek Ranch thrives. But all that is endangered by a developer's request to carve an unprecedented shortcut through Sugar Creek Ranch, a shortcut that robs our neighborhood of its integrity and puts all of our children at risk. Please, I urge each of you to protect this safe place for children and all of us who care about them. Please do not allow the easement through Sugar Creek Ranch. Thank you.
Nick Crea.
Members of the council, my name's Nicholas Crea. I live in Sugar Creek Ranch at 1380 Lark. 20 years ago, I downsized from a 100-year-old brick house in Webster Groves to a mid-century modern home in Kirkwood. Just what I was looking for. And yet at the time, I didn't realize just what I'd gotten into. The sense of neighborhood in Sugar Creek Ranch was unlike anywhere else where I lived. You know, Easter egg hunts, trick-or-treating, barbecues, potlucks, kids on bikes, families walking their dogs in the streets, no sidewalks, no through traffic. Sugar Creek Ranch was a real neighborhood. Today, I'm concerned about the proposed development of 2+ acres abutting the neighborhood. The developer petitions for an easement through Sugar Creek Ranch through the existing lot at 141 Horseshoe Drive to the undeveloped lot behind on Adams. It feels like an attempt to sneak in through the back door and take advantage of the already aging infrastructure of Sugar Creek Ranch. What's the impact on electric, water and sewer, trash pickup, fire protection? This easement would definitely increase traffic, construction or otherwise. What does it do to a now quiet corner of the subdivision? I mean, I'm not against development. I'm all for change, but surely we can protect parts of Kirkwood like Sugar Creek Ranch. I moved to Kirkwood because I appreciate the value of this very livable neighborhood. It is architecturally intact, aesthetically pleasing, recently designated a local historic district. It is a place where families live and actually share their lives with each other. Isn't that the point of the envisioned Kirkwood 2035 comprehensive plan? I found this on page 19 of the plan under protection of neighborhood character. Quote, demolition and new construction have given rise to concerns about the character and consistency of the design and massing of structures in relation to the adjacent structures and how these new structures impact the streetscape and the neighborhood in which they are built, unquote. Well, I'm concerned. Sugar Creek Ranch is unique. It has character. And I'm concerned that this proposed easement will adversely affect it. Please uphold the spirit and recommendations of Envision Kirkwood 2035 and protect Sugar Creek Ranch. Thank you.
Brian Lucas.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. My name is Brian Lucas, and I've been a resident of Sugar Creek Ranch neighborhood for more than 31 years. On December 15th, I was one of the 10 Sugar Creek Ranch residents who pleaded for the Planning and Zoning Commission to prevent a cut-through easement for a planned construction of one or possibly two West Adam homes. Let me repeat, this is nothing more than a cut-through pathway to get to a house that will not be part of our neighborhood. West Adam homes should, not now or never in the future, be able to be accessed from our historic neighborhood. On December 15th, I spoke of the safety and serenity of our subdivision. This morning, I thoroughly enjoyed both of these attributes as I took a morning stroll around our half-mile Horseshoe Drive loop. How peaceful and beautiful it was to see the snow on the grounds and on the tree branches. What I noticed the most was the number of Save Sugar Creek Ranch and Stop the Easement signs in the yards. Without question, and I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, this easement issue has rallied my neighbors like I've never seen before. Even during a hotly contested election year, you might see a handful of signs, political signs, but nothing like the 32 signs currently displayed on Lark and Horseshoe Drive. Even more significantly is seeing these same signs scattered in yards throughout other parts of Kirkwood, where residents are also gravely concerned about setting a precedent with this easement. What I also noticed when I walked past 141 Horseshoe Drive, where the Kirkwood Zoning Matters sign is posted, is how quiet this section of neighborhood was today. It was so quiet, I could hear myself breathe. Sadly, for all my neighbors who have enjoyed these safe and peaceful walks, this will be coming to an end if this easement is approved. The serenity will be replaced by the loud noises of demolition, then construction noises from building one, if not two, West Adam homes. Large trucks will be coming in and out of our neighborhood for several months. Our bus stops, where the Kirkwood school buses stop 6 times a day, picking up and dropping off children of 20 families living in Sugar Creek Ranch, will certainly be at-risk areas given the high volume of construction traffic. My son Luke is one of these children who joined 7 other kids at their designated 240 Horseshoe Drive bus stop. This address, 240 Horseshoe Drive, has special meaning for me because this is where Ken and Kathy Yost and their 2 boys, David and Paul, lived for many years. Knowing what I know about Ken, if he was still an SCR resident, I firmly believe he would have been adamantly opposed to this easement. We, the Sugar Creek Ranch residents, are truly united in our opposition to this driveway easement request and sincerely hope all our collective voices are heard and the right action taken to preserve our peaceful historic community. With the conditions of our streets in mind, please don't let our pavement condition index, the PCI, deteriorate with the heavy truck traffic. With Kirkwood's Zero Vision initiative in mind, we urge and need the Kirkwood City Council's help to keep our streets safe for all Sugar Creek Ranch residents. Thank you for your time and interest.
Thank you.
Eric Pirtle.
I'm going to keep this short out of respect for everyone's time. I know you stated earlier, let's not repeat the same things over and over. I'm a resident of Sugar Creek Ranch, 209 Horseshoe. I oppose this easement. That's really it. I think everybody said everything I was going to say. Thank you.
Teresa Wolf.
Hi, my name is Teresa Wolf. I live at 269 Horseshoe. I want to share some of my favorite quotes with you. So, Mr. Wallace, the September 2nd City Council meeting minutes said you mentioned council should have a more transparent relationship with the residents. Well, Mr. Meskel has had the benefit of more than 4 months of discussions with planning and zoning, the building commissioner's office, as well as the city attorney. We just found out about his plans in November and are still awaiting documents from our sunshine requests. That doesn't feel like transparency. Mr. Sears, you said when council wrote the mission and vision statements, I insisted that the people need to be first, unequivocally. And Kirkwoodians may have different visions for the city, but they all deserve and desire one thing. They want to be secure and to enjoy their chosen neighborhood. And Ms. Dewey, you said, I am in favor of thoughtful and reasonable zoning so that we build compatible houses and protect the rights of the neighbors and neighborhoods adjoining them. Well, we're asking you to please protect our rights and allow us to continue enjoying our chosen neighborhood. Ms. Gibbons, you said continuously allowing exceptions to Kirkwood's zoning code could create confusing expectations going forward. And Ms. Dewey, you said the decisions we make now impact Kirkwood for a long time. And it is my job as a council member to have the foresight to understand the implications of our votes and decisions. Well, allowing this easement through our subdivision sets a dangerous precedent, not only elsewhere in our neighborhood, but throughout Kirkwood. Ms. Dewey, you said we must preserve our history. And Ms. Gibbons, you were co-chair of the Preserving What's Right benefit for our beloved Frank Lloyd Wright House. And Mr. Sears, you recognized an issue that many Kirkwoodians described as infill housing. You said, I find that they mean old, perfectly good houses demolished to be replaced with monstrously proportioned new homes. Well, in our case, the demolished house is to be replaced with a cut-through road to a 4,000 square foot footprint house. We all love and appreciate Kirkwood's history. Please help us to preserve our historic neighborhood. Liz, you ran your campaign on healthy streets, healthy development, and healthy community. And Ms. Wirtz, you, along with your colleagues, Ms. Dewey and Mr. Zimmer, are delegate to the Complete Streets Consortium. So I know that you all appreciate our desire to keep our streets safe for pedestrian and cycling use without the unnecessary traffic. Mr. Zimmer, you said, I intend to listen to all citizens and work to represent you. And I believe that all citizens in Kirkwood should be heard, have a voice, and be represented by the members of City Council. Mr. Ward, you said, I'm seeking to extend my history of effective service to our community by serving on the City Council, by listening and understanding the needs of the residents of Kirkwood. Mr. Sears, you said, I want to make sure that you, our citizens, have a voice through me and that you are represented by me. And Ms. Dewey, you said, my overriding principle is that everyone must have a place at the table. Mayor Griffin, you've spent almost half your life serving the citizens of Kirkwood, for which we are grateful. So please, all of you, tell me that you've listened to us, that you're representing us, and that you'll vote no on this resolution. Thank you.
Valerie Starr.
My name is Valerie Starr. I know many of you, hello, haven't seen you in a while. I live at 1300 West Adams, but I have also resided on Horseshoe Drive in two different houses. One in particular is the 145, which is going to be next to the easement going to the West Adams property. One of the things that I have been concerned about is the sewer and water. I know that Sugar Creek, all the homes there have bridges and their water and sewer are tied to those bridges, either outside or under them, going to West Adams. And that's what I think Mr. Meskel should be doing, like everyone else on the south side of West Adams. You know, I don't dislike Mr. Meskel. I actually like him. I find, you know, some of these builders to be interesting. They do interesting things for our city. So I'm not just out trying to get him to stop, because I know he's a popular guy and I know our staff likes him and has worked with him on many projects. But I am concerned that perhaps, even if it didn't happen, it has an appearance of happening, that he had a heads up on the landmark decision. Because he got his application in on October 9th, and they got their declaration of historic designation on the 13th of October. Even if nothing happened, it looks bad. So I'm going to ask that you just simply vote no. And I also want to mention that I did talk with MSD, and surprisingly, Mr. Muller, who I spoke with, said that a fellow by the name of Steve called asking the same questions you're asking. And he was very surprised that we were even bringing up the possibility of hooking it up to Horseshoe Drive. MSD's policy is to hook up to the closest hookup within 200 feet. And West Adams is that spot. So like all my friends from Horseshoe Drive and many from Adams, I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Laurie Astroth.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Laurie Astroth and I live at 1320 West Adams. And I'd like to take this opportunity to ask the Kirkwood City Council to deny the easement request for 141 Horseshoe Drive. This is my 60th year of living at 1320 West Adams. And as I stated in my letter to members of the Kirkwood City Council, my driveway is just to the east of 1334 West Adams. People looking to access that property will come up to my driveway and over my bridge looking for that driveway for 1334. As I noted in my letter, Google Maps states that it's a minute's drive from my property to 1334. The problem is there's no access off of West Adams. And it is a mile's drive to get from access to Horseshoe Drive from my driveway at 1320. I believe that if you desire a West Adams address, then access to your property should be from West Adams. As most of us now use GPS, this will not help a construction vehicle driver or a delivery driver to find the driveway off of Horseshoe Drive. This will become a nuisance to me and to my neighbors who access their property off the bridge downstream from me. I do not need other people's packages dropped off at my front door, nor at my mailbox, since I am not a direct neighbor. My property does not meet 1334 West Adams. I live a mile from 141 Horseshoe Drive. I have a 60-year-old bridge, and I also have no need of construction vehicles nor delivery vehicle traffic using my bridge. I have done a cursory search on the St. Louis County property lookup map and have identified at least 3 other properties that could potentially want to use this method of easement. They too have a street address, which makes it a bit more difficult if they had difficult to access their property, and that they would need it be easier to get an easement through somebody else's. If you allow this access request, it will set a precedent for others to make the same request. In closing, I believe that the petitioner needs to build their own bridge off of West Adams. This would also allow for a sewer line to be carried over Sugar Creek, attached to his bridge to the main sewer line that runs along west side of West Adams. And thank you for listening to our comments.
Kevin Corby.
Thanks, Freddie. Mayor, council members. I'm kind of nervous. I've never done this. This is exciting, actually. I'm a resident of Kirkwood a couple months. And it's thanks to Steve, actually. And I keep hearing developer being thrown around in this. It's kind of funny. I was actually there. I want to tell a story. We went to the property, and I sure hope the video is not working because my girlfriend, future fiance, wife, I hope she can't hear this story because we were on the property, and anybody if you're standing there, he said, you know, we're talking about regulations and how it actually should be. And well, there's building bridges and sewer lines. And we were talking about how beautiful the creek was. We saw a deer, there's a deer line. And we're like, I said, well, you know, what about from here? It's simple. You just walk from here, from the street. It's if there's 100 people that don't have a horse in the race, then it's pretty straightforward. You know, obviously we get to this point, and I can't imagine that this is my first or last time speaking here, but I'm super happy to be a resident of Kirkwood now because of that. Well, we talked about building their home, Steve and Mimi's home there, and how he could help. I actually pulled up, he's blowing off the neighbor's leaves off the roof. So that's when I come up, we walk the property. We actually did some landscaping, cleaned up some leaves, helped out. And we're talking about future kids and children and how nice it would be to have the creek and preserve the creek and be able to walk in this peaceful area. So the intentions of this driveway, which is already there, by the way, they keep calling it an easement, and this developer is making this, there's a driveway that's there and it's pretty straightforward. It's not going to change anything. I know that change can be hard for some people. Positive change is good for the community. I grew up a really long way away in Webster Groves. So I'm also very proud to be in Kirkwood. We didn't even look in Webster. We looked in Kirkwood because Steve talked so highly of that and of being here and being a part of it and raising a family in Kirkwood. And we were talking about raising a family and how kids could visit this property and how beautiful it would be in the backyard. So Steve and Mimi have been nothing but helpful in getting me to be a resident in Kirkwood, helping me every single day building, developing this house. And that's the only term that the only way I could use them as developing our relationship with the community, with the neighborhood, and being able to be a resident here. So as being a resident for almost 40 years in Kirkwood and doing so much good for the community, he just wants to, they just want to live there and help the community and have the least bit impact environmentally to Sugar Creek. So I just wanted to read one last quote too. And I appreciate everybody's time. So I've known Steve Meskel for as long as I can remember. I grew up directly across the street from the Meskels on East Bodley. As a little girl, I remember Steve was always outside making improvements to their home and helping the neighbors with theirs. He has always had a vision for making Kirkwood a better place. In fact, I don't know anyone who has better intentions for the community of Kirkwood and making it a better place to call home. That's Sarah White, who's the prosecuting attorney for Kirkwood, who sent me that. And just wanted to leave that with everybody, that the Meskels just want to build their home there. They want to help the community. And a lot of these people that are opposing and we're hearing this, they're going to become really close friends with them. And I could see that down in the future. So I'm just here to say I'm for the driveway easement for this matter. So thank you, everybody, for your time. Appreciate it.
Roger S.
Happy New Year. Okay. First of all, thank you, Council. Here, Griffin. Surprisingly, I'm not here for the Sugar Creek Ranch. I'm here actually as a cyclist and a pedestrian. I want to thank you all for the progressive work you've done for bicyclists all through our community and all the great crosswalks that have been recently developed all of our community. They're fantastic. I saw the comprehensive plan that was developed for adding additional sidewalks. Downtown looks great. Once you get a little further, I live on Crescent near Biley, and there are not a lot of sidewalks there. Okay, so unfortunately, the sale tax did not pass. Was very disappointing to all of us who like to see more sidewalks. In lieu of that, may I suggest that we have pedestrian paths along our streets? There's a couple of streets that they did to slow down perhaps the traffic. They put red painted strips to slow down the traffic. Perhaps we could do something that's very cost effective. I've seen in other cities, they actually have pedestrian pathways along the side of streets where we can't afford the sidewalks. You can put pedestrian footprints, symbols, whatever, and maybe even some reflective material on that border. This way, taxpayers are not paying really a hefty sum for new sidewalks, which we actually do need. But it does provide the pedestrian a little, maybe a safety margin. If you've ever walked down Essex in the evening, it's sometimes it's a challenge because there's a lot of people zipping back and forth. I think if we had a pedestrian walkway there that's identified, that might provide the pedestrian a little safer approximation from the traffic. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Roger.
Crystal McCune.
Good evening. I'm a little taller than normal. First, I want to say thank you to all of you this evening, and I love Kirkwood. And just to provide a background, my name is Crystal McCune. I am a part-time communication dispatcher for the city of Kirkwood for the police department. Kirkwood was one of my very first full-time jobs at 19 years old. I have 27 years experience. You can do the math to find out how old I am today. I am a previous council member for the city of Wildwood. I did 2 years. I have served the community in my neighborhood. I was the president and chair for 5 years of 700 homes. So I am a public servant. I love it. I take pride. And I've stayed with Kirkwood for many, many years because I love this community and I love the people that live here, and I have a lot of friends and family here. The reason, unfortunate, that I'm here this evening is I feel that after reviewing and considering, I have a picture in front of you that I will discuss in a moment, but unfortunately, the reasons and what I'm asking is a reconsideration before review of the council and passing of the budget of 2022 to maybe allocate some funds for safety for the civilian dispatchers in the communication centers today. I have expressed, I try to write a script, and I know the 3 minutes, but I said, unfortunately, it's heartbreaking that I'm here. I said, I'm here to discuss the issue that concerns the safety of dispatchers who are civilians who work in communication division located in the police department, which is next door. And I have asked, for the allocation of these funds. While the working conditions currently are subpar in the small room that we operate from, if anybody's visited, we have made modifications, but the overall security to the police department is now, a concern for us sitting inside that department. I have the colleagues that I work with for many years, myself, have discussed the safety issues that revolve sitting in that room, and have brought that up to command staff and brought it up to different levels, sergeants, lieutenants, captains, to say, hey, there's a problem here. Can we get something to be changed? I have asked for copies of the emergency plan in the event that the police department would be breached by hostile protesters or citizens that are opposed to the police department. As you are all aware, the attack on the police and the police personnel continues to rise in numbers nationwide. And tonight marks the 1-year anniversary of the insurrection of the National Capitol invasion, which we never envisioned that would ever happen, or even the police department to be under attack. Since the Michael Brown shooting in Ferguson and other cities around the nation have experienced police protests, the majority began peacefully and have resulted in violence. Police departments are damaged by throwing bricks to the building, setting police cars on fire, breaching the security of the security areas of police departments. I have repeatedly stated my concerns over security, and the Communications Division requested that our action plan, where do we go? Where would we be safe to shelter in place in the event the breach would occur? What if the protesters are surrounding our building? The majority of the access doors to the police department are all glass. The Communication Division has a sectional door, which is a two-part, the top can swing, the bottom can close. I don't know what the official name is, but does not have a lock. And the two other access points in communications are not that very secure either, and they could be breached. So on January 11th of 2021, if you all recall from the media, an email was sent out to police staff notifying personnel that there was a planned protest which marched against injustice, protesting Kirkwood's handling of the property damage investigation that occurred on January 6th of 2021. The organizers of the event indicated that it would be peaceful and we would have 2 additional officers in the area. I was scheduled to work that evening and brought it to the attention of my direct supervisor, which in turn went to the captain and other administrative, that what are the safety measures or plans do we have if this turns into violence? Normally the violence has occurred as we've seen. It's not the citizens in with the town you live in, it's the outsiders. It's the people that want to come here and cause more chaos. So I said, how do we secure the door, which is directly off the lobby door, which is glass too, to avoid access to our area? As civilians, we are not allowed to carry or have a gun or a person in the building. Again, what is the plan, I ask? It is important to note that staffing of our police officers at times on the night shift include 2 officers and a sergeant to handle the entire city. In the event of one emergency or another that occur throughout the city, 3 officers is not enough staffing if this type of an event would occur. If an attack were to occur in our police department, 3, 4, 5 officers would not be able to fend off the immediate danger where we sit, as there are more doors than those officers. While thankfully the protest was peaceful that evening, the response from the administration within the police department was a 2x4 was placed in dispatch, which I have shown you a picture of this evening, which you see. And on that board was to place on the floor in front of the bottom portion of the door, a small little sliding lock that can be forcefully pushed open. And someone within the police department, I'm not sure who, wrote on that board, Kirkwood Communications, Star, high-tech security stick. Who would write something like this? This is not a joke. It's a true concern. And what this is stating here is a fix, and the perception among dispatchers, who I adore and I appreciate, and we do everything here, was a slap in the face. Command staff wasn't aware of the board just as of last night, talking to one of them, but still nothing has been implemented. I can say a couple of weeks ago, I had an incident. I'm working.
Yes, you do.
Okay, I'm sure. You know, where we had somebody in the lobby, the front door is not locking. I've had numerous conversations about the status of the window protection in the front of the lobby. People can put their hand through there and hold a gun and shoot. I've asked for changes to that. I was told to hold off while the capital improvement to build a new facility for dispatch is not in this year's budget. It's scheduled for next year, and we will make sure it gets added to the proposal. He also said that there would be aware of potential security hazards with the doors, but after looking at bids, they were way too high to replace. Why did this not make the budget agenda for this year? Who is responsible for requesting the funding? When has money come before safety for workers? When it comes to the police department, our command staff, the ones we report to and are called to protect and serve the community, I ask, where is our protection while working? The shootings that occurred here, February 7, 2008, you guys took that serious. You have an officer here that's in the lobby while you're working. They're here this evening. We all feel safe here. That's what's here. You guys made changes to the building because of that tragedy. We've learned that lesson. I've spoke to the tops of where I can be. So what I'm asking is, I see tonight there is a bill on the floor for $15,000 designation for uniforms, but the bids for doors for protection is too much. But we're going to put nice coats on police officers. We also are passing a resolution that I was discouraged not to speak
I'm gonna
tonight.
have to ask you to.
Okay,
you
I'm
to
sorry.
go.
So I'm sorry, Mayor, I'm sorry. I respect that.
Fine,
But
thank
also
you.
the bill, I appreciate the increase that you guys are going to pass on second reading tonight. And I know that's hard. And that's much overdue because the work that we do is very intense, and we are that 911 voice on the other line. So again, I'm asking to consideration of the budget for 2022 to allocate funds to protect the communications division, the police department, so we can avoid a tragedy that could occur in the future. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, I'll let you know. I'll give this as an official record and the picture can go into the documentation. Thank you.
Vinnie Warner?
My goodness, you all have a lot on your plate. After that presentation, I'm in sympathy with the young lady who just spoke to you. But I would like to say, first of all, that I am here tonight as a resident of Sugar Creek Ranch. And I am, of course, in concert with all of my neighbors who've already spoken in opposition to PZ 0922. My name is Vinnie Warner McMaster. I live at 169 Horseshoe Drive. This has been my address for 58 years. I want to thank you, first of all, for your kind attention to all of the comments that you have heard this evening. There's been a lot. You've heard 20 plus comments from not only Sugar Creek Ranch, but from other constituents. The 20 plus speakers who've already spoke, there was only one speaker who spoke about the Sugar Creek Ranch easement who was opposed, maybe two, as I recall. 18 people who have spoken this evening who are wanting you to deny that. There's probably that many more times two at home who would be also in opposition, who are not able to come tonight. So I want you to know that this really is a concern for all of us, for all of your constituents, for all of the residents, not only in Sugar Creek Ranch, but also in the city of Kirkwood. You've seen the numerous letters that we've sent to you. You undoubtedly have read the articles in the Webster Kirkwood Times from residents in Sugar Creek Ranch. You know from reading those things that this is an encroachment that will mean lots of things that are not positive for our subdivision, Sugar Creek Ranch. It's a detriment to us. And hopefully, I'd like to call your attention to this 19-page document that you received from this is from Dave Robbins, who is writing this on behalf of all the residents of Sugar Creek Ranch. I hope that you've read it in its entirety, because this is key to helping you to make an informed decision about this encroachment. It's key because it expresses in very great detail why this petition should not go through, why it should be denied. They've already pointed out, my neighbors, that it's not consistent with the codes. The petition has not really, it's not really relevant related to the code that it was based under. It's not consistent with Envision 2035, as already has been spoken, and it's not in keeping with Kirkwood's 2017 statement about Kirkwood's future. Please consider all that you've heard, all that you've seen, all that you have read, especially this key document, because it's very thorough and very detailed. And when you read it, there is no doubt that this petition needs to be denied. In closing, I'd like to say this. I want to thank you all very much for the service to the Kirkwood community. I know you're investing a lot of time and effort to represent all of us. And please, I'm saying this with much respect to all of you and courtesy. but each of you ran as a candidate for us, the citizens. When one developer is awarded a financial windfall at the expense of an entire neighborhood, it fails the standards that you each campaigned for. The exploitation of residents by changing the character of the neighborhood, our neighborhood, historic Sugar Creek Ranch, it's not serving the overall good of your constituents, your community, those people you represent. Please put the standing of your citizens first. Please make us a priority and deny this petition. Thank you for your time and for your service.
Mayor, there are no more comments.
Okay. I want to thank everyone. This is the way Kirkwood works. I know a lot of communities don't. Everyone is civil and positive, and that's just very, very much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you very much. We will now move on to our consent agenda. Your motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
Motion and a second. Are there questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passes. Go to unfinished business bill 10907.
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance appropriating $15,000 from the Equitable Sharing Fund balance to the Police Department equipment account, accepting the proposal of Leon Uniforms as a single source provider in the amount of $15,000 for the purchase of Class A dress uniform jackets for the police department.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Bill passes bill 10908.
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance adopting a revised City of Kirkwood classification and pay plan effective January 10th, 2022.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Bill passes. Resolution 1, 2022.
Mayor and council, this is a resolution approving the preliminary subdivision plat of Mimi's Garden, a tract of land being the western half of the northwest quarter of Section 2, Township 44 North, Range 5 East, and Lot 17 of Sugar Creek Ranch, Plat 1, as recorded on Plat Book 61, page 36, and being in part of the southwest quarter of Section 2, Township 44 North, Range 5 East, in the city of Kirkwood, St. Louis County, Missouri.
And before I ask for a motion to approve, Councilmember Gibbons, would you like to state you're going to recuse yourself? Yes. All right, due to a conflict of interest. Okay, so let the record read Councilmember Gibbons is leaving the meeting at this time. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 1, 2022?
Move approval.
Is there a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Before we go into council comments on this, and I meant to say earlier, filling in tonight for our Chief Administrative Officer, who is not here, is our Assistant Chief Administrative Officer, Dave Weidler. Thank you, David. Could we have our Director of Planning, John Raish, come up and just give us a little of the council background on the process and the zoning code provisions for this type of issue being considered. And I also will invite, if at any point in time, City Attorney Hessel would like to interject, please do so.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. So if I understand the question or the request is to describe the process and what's being considered tonight. So at a broad level, the purpose of our subdivision and specifically the major subdivision process in our code is to provide a method of review for any subdivision that exceeds the scope of a minor subdivision and which includes multiple lots the creation or expansion of new streets, and or the installation of public improvements. This specific request is a unique type of major subdivision due to the fact that no lots are being created or adjusted, and it is a request, it is only categorized this as a major subdivision because of the modification request. The proposed houses could legally be built on the existing lots without any approval from the city council through the building permit process. The only subdivision issue being proposed is the physical access to one of the lots. Article 10 of our zoning and subdivision code regulates various design standards for the way in which properties are developed. Section 2581 of this article specifically regulates the way in which properties are accessed via streets and thoroughfares. Section 2581, subsection C, subsection 5, describes special street types and requirements. Under this provision, it states that a private driveway easement may be requested as a subdivision modification. It also states that such driveway shall only serve 2 lots and that the building line shall not be less than 15 feet from said easement. So as I stated, this is not a typical subdivision as Kirkwood or other communities are used to seeing. There is not the addition of lots, I'll repeat. Determining what process this falls under was something we looked at seriously and had to determine what was appropriate. And as I stated, because of this is where the regulation sits in the code under the subdivision design standards. This is why it is being processed. The code also stipulates that modification requests should be considered with a preliminary plat. So again, the preliminary plat is proposed to show what is being requested and to depict what that would look like is the preliminary plat. It's more of a site plan. And the final plat is what would get recorded. And it shows the boundaries of the lots as they exist today and shows the proposed easement for the driveway that would provide access to 141 Horseshoe and to 1334 West Adams.
John, do you have anything to add to that or?
No, I think he summarized it very well, and I know that one of the citizens expressed concerns about multiple lots resulting from this is private driveway. We would not allow that. I think Jonathan has characterized it very well. I will remind the council that certainly having a private driveway serving 2 lots is not characterized as not common, but I know this is going to sound a little inconsistent, but it's not uncommon either. They do exist within our city. They exist in various incidents or under various circumstances. And again, the criteria set forth within the code does talk about kinds of things that the city council should consider. And in that regard, city council really should consider the environmental impact that could result by the denial of this request. At the same token, council should consider whatever impact it could have on Horseshoe Drive. And that's what the issue is before this city council.
Thank you. Any council members have questions of Jonathan while he's standing? Councilmember Ward.
So Jonathan, so I can understand this. Possible for the applicant to circumvent the decisions made here this evening by the council?
Yeah, can you repeat? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Is it possible for the applicant to circumvent the decisions made by the council here tonight?
So I don't know of a legal way that he could, under our code, get access from Horseshoe Drive to the property at 1334 West Adams. Is that your question?
Okay.
I don't know if the city attorney has
I
anything
think
to
you
add.
stated it well.
Any other questions directly for Jonathan?
I did have one more, Jonathan. Driveway width. Is it 12 feet that this was proposed to be? The width of this driveway?
It's right in there, 12 or 13, I think is what's shown on the plan. I think it's a little over 13 at the curb cut at the street. The easement itself is wider.
And the fact that more than one home could be potentially serviced by that doesn't change the dimensions of that driveway other than its length.
The requirement, like what would be required to do that? No, I mean, it's still a one lane driveway access, right? So.
Else from council for Jonathan? All right. Thank you very much, Jonathan.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and turn this to council, and I will talk first, and I will be very, very brief. One thing I know I have done over the years, as all council members do, we look at the issue and what we think is the right thing for, to do in that situation based on the facts we have in front of us. Every council member, whether we agree, disagree, always thinks we're doing what is right for the situation and right for Kirkwood as a whole. Planning and zoning, makes a recommendation to the council, and over the years, personally, me, others individually and as a group, sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree and make different decisions. I will say right off tonight that in this particular situation, I think planning and zoning made the correct decision. I think when I look at the situation, it meets the zoning code criteria. And I look at the overall long-term situation, we're talking about a driveway. I understand there's going to be construction. You could have 5 houses in your subdivision, like others in Kirkwood, being demolished, renovated, torn down, and new homes built. I think the end result of this, in a practical sense, as the zoning code alludes to, a driveway easement on Horseshoe Drive is a reasonable solution, and that's why I support it. Councilmember Dewey.
I won't repeat all that we've heard here tonight. I will say, though, that Sugar Creek Ranch is a local historic district. The neighbors of Sugar Creek worked very hard to attain this designation, as all neighborhoods do who desire being a historical district. Anyone who has done this can attest to that. They did it because they love their neighborhood and wanted the honor and the protection this designation creates. And as I said, this is a hard designation to earn. The neighbors in this neighborhood jumped through all the hoops, and it happened. If we ignore all this and many other arguments, I worry if how many other Kirkwood neighborhoods will choose to undertake the requirements for becoming a local historic district in Kirkwood. And so the neighborhoods will be lost as part of our history.
Thank you. Councilmember Ward. Excuse me, I'm sorry, Councilmember Zimmer, you're next tonight. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Well, I don't have a lot much to say about this. I certainly listened to all of you speak, and I know this has been a difficult issue for all of us. I think this is a very important historical district. I do have concerns with the precedent that this could possibly set. Thank you.
Now, Councilmember Ward. No.
Thank you, Mayor. I hope that the residents of the community understand just how difficult you make our work. This is a tough one. Whenever we're dealing with property rights, it becomes highly emotional, and people are really concerned about it. And we don't take it lightly. As a resident, I grew up. If my mother were alive, she could attest to how often I caught impetigo from playing in that creek, long before there were as many homes there as there are now. About coming up on 4 years ago, when there was an effort to rezone some property up on Bach, we received over 1,000 signatures insisting that we not do anything that would further damage Sugar Creek. the petitioner now, if we deny access through that driveway, would be looking at a driveway in excess of 700 feet long. And because that bluff is almost vertical down there, it would require a lot of cutting and switchbacks and dozens of trees eliminated. And so I'm weighing that against, the neighbors that we have here tonight who are saying, well, don't let him put a single driveway in, but put 718 feet of cut into that valley down there, which many people consider pristine. I have the dichotomy of the earliest attested resident of Sugar Creek Ranch, who says that some years ago, and I know my brother served on that committee, the sidewalk committee, after we had a death, they insisted they may not have sidewalks. But to hear tonight, I hear a mother who said her challenged children have to spend time in that street competing with vehicles. And it makes us torn. What is the best? What is best? Should we insist that you put sidewalks into that neighborhood? I would bet, I couldn't get a yes out of anyone who resides in there. The issue of traffic, and I'm trying to be balanced on this, and I look at essentially for what's going there now is two empty nesters moving into a home. We had one of the residents state that he's got 3 children or 4 children who will likely, as of driving age, be operating vehicles in that subdivision too. So I know often it seems like it's very black and white to those who have one side of the fight or the other, or the argument. It's not when we're up here listening to all sides and trying to be balanced.
Councilmember Wertz.
Want to kind of piggyback on that. These issues are hard and they are very personable because these are our homes. These are our neighbors who we often see nowadays more than we do anyone else. And you have two sides. One of the opposition speakers brought up the Complete Streets Consortium. Well, the Complete Street Consortium will tell us this is the perfect thing to do to mitigate traffic and bicyclists, coming in contact with each other. But most of the opposition is saying, still, that's not what we want. So, I debated even commenting on this, but I do, because I also want you guys to know that we are listening, and there were also words of we're not being transparent, and there have been emails that that this was shady and that we aren't working for you guys. And our emails and phone numbers are all listed on the website. We're all just your neighbors as well. We may not live in the same neighborhood, but we are your neighbors of Kirkwood, and we do want to see this community thrive and remain strong. And I just want you guys to keep that in mind today. This is not an easy decision to make, and definitely not for me. As many of you know, I have an 8-week-old at home, so when I'm up at 3 a.m. feeding her, I'm also reading some of these emails. So you guys are a great neighborhood, and I think you made great points. And all that to say, when I come to these decisions of these things, when there is a variance to the code, I do it. My decision is usually done on, is this for the betterment of the community? Is this done to make better affordable homes? Is this better to maintain the character? So that's my mindset. That's where I'm coming, and that's where my vote will come from tonight. So
thank you.
End of my rambling.
All right. Councilmember Sears.
I have some comments I'd like to make following up on Councilperson Wertz's comments, that while tonight everybody was here and very respectful, very polite, it was wonderful to see how that went. In some of the emails, you may or may not be surprised that we heard a lot about how corrupt we are and how we just are watching, protecting a developer, and that I remember one email in particular, there's a whole string of things we were guilty of. And, you know, I find that odd that people would approach a council person or anybody who's a decision maker, asking for some positive relief for themselves and come out of the gate angry and how untrustworthy we are and that sort of thing. It doesn't set the table very well. But we also have experience as elected officials and we know how to set all of that aside, so that we don't make our judgments based on how we feel emotionally about a topic, but rather the facts, as the mayor said, and how they line up. Now, there are a lot of concerns that people raise that I want to talk about, like construction, traffic, construction thing. How could we turn down a request for new construction because there will be construction vehicles involved in the process? We can't do that. I mean, it's just like it's something we just can't do, because obviously if you're gonna do something, there has to be another reason to turn it down than that. So another thing that always comes up in these controversial, passionate kinds of where people feel passionately about a topic is that, you know, we better listen, or that if we vote a particular way, contrary to what the majority of people who show up talk about, then we didn't listen. And the truth is, as Wallace alluded to, it makes it difficult to convey. I mean, we want to be sure to convey that we listen intently and we consider all of the positions very carefully, because that's part of the factual record of the case too, is the testimony of the neighbors. And so we listen very, very intently, and it's very important to get the input, and we appreciate all of that. But the facts may compel a different result. That doesn't mean we didn't listen to people. So I want you, no matter what a council person, which way a council person votes, I want you all to understand that you were heard. I read every single email. I have confidence that the others who I know very well would have read them as well. And we listened to your comments tonight, and we hear things on the street as we talk to neighbors. And it is all taken into account, and it's all considered. We also, you know, some people are guided by different things, and we have, you know, and when I say guided by different things, I just mean we'll have a different interpretation of, or one fact will weigh more heavily than another. And so there's lots of reasons for a vote one way or the other on an issue that maybe have nothing to do with what the neighbors are concerned with, or what the proponent has told us or presented. So anyway, I guess the bottom line of what I'm saying is we're responsible. We get it. We hear the passion from the neighbors, and we do listen and care. And it makes it really hard for somebody who finds these types of questions easy. I've said this before. I'm jealous of them, of council people who just think, you know, whenever a proposal comes up, I know exactly what position I'm going to take. And there have been council people maybe who have had that, where something comes forward and they say, that's in the category I'm always against, or I'm always for. That's not responsible. And so that's what makes it hard, is when we really have to figure out difficult proposals. I did want to ask the city council, Mr. Hessel, if you could, and hopefully this is a fair question, just kind of go over a standard of review for this, or kind of what should be in our consideration as we do this, to kind of remind us and maybe the people present what, what we are to consider, and if you have a comment about what we shouldn't, what we can't take into account, because there's a legal basis for all of this too.
Understood. And again, Jonathan Race could probably do a better job than I will, but I can refer certainly to the review criteria set forth within the zoning code, excuse me, the subdivision code itself. It does talk about whether special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land or structure involved, which are not applicable generally to other lands or structures in the same zoning district. That goes on to identify certain examples of that. It does again talk about whether the variance, and again, this provision of the code really talks about two things, and I don't like using the term variance. It really is a modification of the subdivision requirements to allow a private drive that will serve 2 lots. So I don't like the characterization as a variance. It's a modification, but within our code, we flip back and forth on that because it's also dealing with variances for the Board of Adjustment. So I know it's confusing to the general public, at least I assume it is, because it's sometimes confusing to me because the language isn't very good in that respect. But it does talk about whether the variance is not substantial and is the minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land or structure. And that's why I suggested at the outset that the city council consider the environmental impact that could result from the denial and weigh that against the impact on granting it. And we all heard about the impact associated with the streets, impact upon the residents, including the children as well as others within the street. You then go on to whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment as a result of, again, they use the term variance. So that's what you factor in, kind of saying differently what I tried to say. Whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services such as water, sewer, trash pickup. Sewer issues were raised by some of the citizens, where the property owner's request can be obviated through some method other than that. And again, we're back to, if you don't allow the private drive, then you could end up with the building of a bridge, as Councilmember Ward alluded to, with a switchback going up a very steep ravine and the impact on the environment of that. Where the property owners, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting, again, I don't like this term, but I'll use it, variance. Whether a strict interpretation of the provision of the code would deprive the applicant of commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this code. I'm not sure that that is particularly applicable. So I hope, although those terms are sometimes hard to grasp when you just read them, but I think the council is grasping what the issues are before them and what you're to consider. Mr. Raish, did I miss anything? Okay. And I look upon Mr. Raish because he is phenomenal at what he does. He's a great city planner. He's very impartial on these kinds of on all projects. And he's merely, we as staff are merely trying to present to the city council what your options really are so that you can make an informed decision.
Thank you. I don't have other
All
comments.
right, anything further from the council on this? All right, seeing nothing else, no other questions, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
No.
Councilmember Zimmer,
No.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
No.
Councilmember Gibbons is not in attendance. Councilmember Sears,
No.
All right, that is no, 2 in favor, 4 against, is that correct? Okay, the resolution does not pass, which also means then that the next bill 10909 does not move forward. Thank you, everyone. All right. Yeah. Let's move on to our next order of business. Our next item is in Councilmember Gibbons, if she can come back.
it's going back to
Yeah.
dinner.
Yeah, really. If she brings snacks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was coming for the same thing.
There we go.
You missed, you did not call Dave Robbins. He was the first in our group. And you went straight to this guy.
Oh, it must have been stuck to this card.
Yeah.
I do apologize.
No, I understand it could happen.
I'm sorry about that.
Very good.
Yeah.
That was my fault. I'm so sorry.
I filled them all out.
All right.
Sweating there. I went like this.
Oh, she's-
These are extra ones. Thank you, guys.
All right, we ask everyone to please go ahead and move on so we can carry on with our business.
Must have been stuck to this.
All right, Dave, let's go ahead. Resolution 2022.
Mayor and council, this is a resolution authorizing the offering for sale of certificates of participation, City of Kirkwood, Missouri, leasing Series 2022.
Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
All right, we got a motion, and a second. Are there any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward, Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 3, 2022.
Mayor and council, this is a resolution accepting the bid of KJ Understall Construction in the amount of not to exceed $1,253,621, which includes a contingency of $113,966 for the Geyer Road water main replacement and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward, Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 4, 2022.
Mayor and council, this is a resolution amending the contract with Navigate Building Solutions in the amount of $18,500 for owner's representative service for renovations to the community center and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into an amended contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Moved.
All right, we got a motion, a second. Questions or comments?
I just would point out how important this is. I mean, I think that this plan, having an owner's representative has worked out well for us in the past. And I think we need to seriously consider it for all of the major projects that we do.
Any other questions or comments on it? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 5, 2022.
Mayor and council, this is a resolution amending the contract with Navigate Building Solutions in the amount of $98,127.91 for owner's representative services for renovations to the train station and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into an amended contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Motion, have a second? All right, any questions or comments?
Same comments from before.
Yeah, you said it once. No need to
I
say
was
it
gonna,
again.
I'm not going.
I was gonna piggyback off of that and repeat those comments, but I don't have to now.
Is it a requirement of the East-West Gateway?
What- Say that again, I'm sorry.
Is it a requirement of the East-West Gateway from their federal, the federal?
I would not
Yeah.
think so.
I just wondered.
No, I wouldn't. Mm-mm.
So
All right, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz.
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 6, 2022.
Mayor and council, this is a resolution accepting the proposal of Horner and Schifrin, Inc. in the amount of $83,805 for professional engineering and construction services for the Clay Avenue Bridge Rehabilitation Project and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a contract.
Is there a motion for approval? Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Councilmember Ward.
Dave, if I recall, when this came up last year, it was essentially fair reparation of subsidence of the sidewalks on one end and variation of the retaining wall. Is that essentially nothing? Major structural components in the bridge are involved?
Yes.
Any other questions or comments from council? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward, Councilmember Wertz. Yes. Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 7, 2022.
Mayor and council, this is a resolution accepting the proposal of Horner and Schifrin Inc. in the amount of $73,030 for Kirkwood City Hall and Police Department parking lot reconstruction design and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into account.
Is there a motion for approval? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any questions or comments? Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes, there's a mention of 10 electric charging stations. Do we have any idea where those might be placed?
Bill, would you like to come up?
Thanks, Bill. Sorry to make you get up.
So,
Yeah, I know.
in basic theory, we think it's going to be in the spot where the grass strip is behind the police station right now. But that's why we're taking into account a professional engineering company to reevaluate, because we're trying to add as many parking spaces as we can also, and handle the stormwater issues that are associated with it.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Bill.
Bill.
Hey, Bill, before you go,
Oh.
you have an estimate of what you might be looking at in additional space?
Well, we were hoping to get somewhere between 20 and 30, but that's going to be based on some SketchUp, but some of those we have to evaluate and get around with the city administrator and things of that nature, because there's some impacts to landscaping if we go that far. So we want to try and be as conscious of what we have out there right now, but try to get as many spots as we possibly can also.
There's some Thursdays during the summer when you're gonna need to send a shuttle for council members.
Depends on which council members, I mean, depends on which one.
Really good point.
Voting on.
There's that.
Anything else, Councilmember Ward? Anybody else? All right, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Resolution passes. No consent agenda items. Any city council reports? All right. Chief Administrative Officer report.
Mayor and council, I have a couple of reports for you here this evening. The city has received an application for liquor license from Clay Adams PJ's LLC, 123 West Jefferson, to sell intoxicating liquor by the drink plus Sunday. This request needs the city council approval by a voice vote.
Is there a motion to approve? Is
Motion.
there a second? All right, questions or comments? None, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Say no, motion passes.
Mayor and council, the city has also received an application for temporary outdoor promotional variance from the Alpine Shop, 440 North Kirkwood Road, to hold their annual Get Outside Expo from Friday, March 4th, 2022 through Sunday, March 6th, 2022. This request includes a tent to be on the parking lot from March 2nd, 2022 through March 7th, 2022. This request needs city council approval by a voice vote.
Is there a motion for approval? Second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion second. Questions or comments? Being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Mayor and Council, the final item I have for you this evening is the city has received an application for temporary outdoor promotional variance from the Alpine Shop, 440 North Kirkwood Road, to hold their semi-annual swap sale from Friday, April 22nd, 2022 through Sunday, April 24th, 2022. This request includes a tent to be on the parking lot from April 13th, 2022 through April 25th, 2022. This request needs city council approval by a voice vote.
Is there a motion for approval? Second,
Second.
questions or comment?
It's a curiosity to me why, and I'm not objecting to it, but does anybody know why the sale starts on the 22nd and the tent is up on 13th? But I don't know. I guess you do know?
Setting up.
Well, it's a consignment sale, so they give people time to
to
bring in
bring
their
their-
items.
Okay.
There's a
mean-
lead time.
It's a swap.
All right. Like I said, it's just a curiosity, but of no import. Thank you.
Was your curiosity cured?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Then
All
we're
right.
all happy.
All right, is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
We have it already?
we-
I'm sorry. Okay,
motion
I
and second.
I apologize. I apologize. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passes. City Attorney report.
I really don't have anything to report, Mayor, but I do want to note that this evening we heard about Steve Geyer being promoted. For those of you that don't remember or don't recall, Steve Geyer was a true hero.
Yep.
On February 7th,
Yep.
2008.
Oh,
He
yeah.
put his life at risk, saved the lives of many people.
Yep.
I was going to say that when it went on, but Steve is so
Steve
humble,
would not want you to, he
No.
would not want anybody to say anything. Yeah, yep,
Wow.
he was,
amazing guy.
yep.
Yeah, I thought that overall, both of the issues involving the promotions and the shop with the cop.
Yeah.
You know, since we have one or two more residents we normally have at a city council meeting.
That was neat, yeah.
It goes without saying that having tremendous community support and setting an environment that is wholesome allows us to attract the
Thanks for saying
Sorry
that,
about
John.
that.
No, I thought about saying some earlier, but Steve would not
He
want that.
wouldn't have wanted
He
it.
would not want that. So, city clerk report.
Yes, Your Honor, I have two items to report. First is the report of the January 5th, 2022 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The following action was taken. After a presentation by staff and the petitioner, the commission recommended approval of a special use permit for a major animal facility in the Woodbine Zone at 445 through 455 through 459 South Kirkwood Road, subject to the conditions contained in staff's memo dated January 5th, 2022. Also, on that, we will be scheduling this item for a public hearing on February 3rd, 2022. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Lori.
Laurie, do you have any idea what type of animals we're talking about?
Yeah, what is a major animal?
Mates,
No, not farm animals.
The major is a descriptive term for the facility, not the animals. So it's a veterinarian practice. So.
Auto repair and auto shops, and major and minor.
Come
All
on.
right.
Did talk about exotic pets and they had to describe they met like gerbils and hamsters are considered exotics. They're not talking about, they're not talking about zoo. So they do cats, dogs primarily. They said maybe a bird, but you'll hear all about it.
Yeah, I thought I could save a trip all the way to Forest Park with the grandkids.
There you go.
No.
All
Big
right.
lizards, not the
Well
small
done,
ones.
Jonathan.
All right. Next meeting of city council will be 2 weeks from tonight, 7 PM, January 20th. This meeting is adjourned. Good night, Laurie. Hello, David. How are you, sir?
Hey, if somebody